Welcome to Rich Conversations. This is another one of our weekly guided reflection sessions where we're going to take about 40 to 55 minutes out of our day to simply just think more intentionally about our own life. And I'll pose simple questions that just come to my mind. And through this, we'll be able to gain a little bit more clarity in the direction we want to be headed. And certainly cumulatively, by doing this, it becomes clearer and clearer. So we'll start this session, how we do every session, and that's 5 minutes of breathing. Hold on to your seats. We're going to practice stillness and silence for 5 minutes. I just set the timer and we're just breathing in and breathing out. If thoughts come to mind, just let them pass. They're not important right now. Just focus on breathing. And if it helps, count in and out. 1, 1, 2, 2, kind of like that. Sit up straight, as if, there's like a string pulling you upward. All right, so that was 5 minutes. Not so bad, right? How do we feel? We feel recentered, refocused. Something like that is especially great for, if you can be aware of your body and like the sensations and emotions, you can kind of control it if you're able to recognize it. And this is often for when we're feeling like anxious or anger or any number of different emotions. Sometimes we need to take a breath, and we're a lot more clear because of it. Thinking of the sensation of, never mind. Let's start this session with what we're grateful for. That's how we start every session, because it's that important. Gratitude and patience. Patience is something I'm not struggling with, but I'm practicing impatiently. What are we grateful for? Think about your life. Think about what's going on right now, what you're experiencing. But look around you. What's there? I'm grateful for indoor plumbing, hot water. I feel like every time I record these, my face is red because I like just come out of the shower. In my showers, I like taking hot. Sometimes I'll take cold showers. I feel like that's more in the summer though, I do that. I think cold is better for your skin, but the hot just feels good, Play some music, listen to some music in the shower, just kind of take my time. Yesterday it was like 5 degrees where I am in Wisconsin, and pretty cold. And what I like to do on some of those days is just take a nice hot Epsom salt bath. Just relax, and that's something to be grateful for, right? When it is so cold outside, the ability to just take a hot bath, I mean, really think about it. It's quite a privilege. It's quite a thing to do. I'll think back to like Louis XIV, one of my favorite historical figures. I got the fleur-de-lis on this ring, symbol for the French monarchy. And I'll often compare what I experience in the world to his experiences. I'm not one for comparing among contemporary, but I find comparing to like history, it's very valuable and beneficial. So we're like something like that, taking a hot bath, like by just turning the faucet, is pretty incredible, and it's not something that even the king of the world could do at the time. So compare only backwards, not around you or forwards. I mean, even think about the medicine we'll have in 50 years, 100 years, 200 years. They'll look back at us and be like, it's better to compare ourselves now to them rather than now and forward. What's something that you enjoy doing to relax? What activities, what things do you do to relax? I like to light candles. This is balsam fir. What I have found about myself is that I don't like the food scented candles. Like I have this caramel apple one. I don't like it. The only reason I light it is to just finish it. Like there's this other one, lavender lemonade. They smell too phony to me, too artificial. Whereas something more nature, like balsam fir, I find really calming. I like those nature ones. Sometimes I like to go to stores and sniff the different scents. Oh yeah. My lighter stick is out of fluid or whatever, and my Bic lighter, it's too it's a little hard. I burned myself doing it. Okay, we got it. I like the Christmas kind of scented candles, kind of all year round. So after Christmas, you can find some discounted candles. Last year at Jewel Osco, this grocery store in Chicago, got these candles that were originally like $20 for 99 cents. And I had a backpack, and I brought 12 of them, 12 or 13 of them I bought. And these are the last ones. So all year I've been lighting them and incense. Something to relax, right? So what do you do to relax? The next question is New Year's Eve. What are you planning to do New Year's Eve? I'm on the scene in the novel, and it's New Year's Eve, and it's in London. So it takes place New Year's Eve in London, and we're at this bar called the Black Heart. It's a metal bar. And so there's this moment where this Black Sabbath song is playing. And so while I'm writing the scene, I'm actively thinking about New Year's and just that kind of energy of something new coming. It's the beginning. It's the end of something, and it's the beginning of something. So while it's the end of something, there's that gratitude, right, of the last year, the experiences we've had, the people we've met, the time shared with people we love and enjoy, what we learned. There's also that excitement and that spirit of what's to come, and let's make it even better, right? So what are we planning for New Year's? Now, that's in this book. In my own life, I'll probably just be in the farmhouse, doing some writing, some relaxation. I've been listening to, I'm on the last chapters of this novel that I'm writing. I'm going to finish it before Christmas, likely by the end of next week. And I'm only listening to English music, like artists from England. So what do we have over here? I'll show you some. We've got the Beatles. So we're going through here. These are just like some. It's interesting how big of influence English artists have had on culture. You know, so we have... so this is what's on my mind right now, Black Sabbath. War Pigs. That's the song that's in the novel. I watched this documentary, John Lennon, NYC. So I've been listening to some John Lennon, and we have Revolver by the Beatles, some Bowie. I'm not a big Bowie fan. I don't love his sound. I'm a big sound guy before lyrics. Amy Winehouse. If you guys listen to Valerie, the Mark Ronson remix or version, I hear it at weddings. It's a really great upbeat version of it. Amy Winehouse. Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Great album. There was this scene in the documentary, the John Lennon NYC documentary, or film, whatever it was. Elton John is playing Madison Square Garden, and he asks John to join him. And he says, only if my song is number one. And it was, how do you sleep at night, or whatever gets you through the night? And he goes to number one, so he's like, oh, I guess I'll show up. And he's in Madison Square Garden, and Elton John introduces him, and the crowd just erupts. And it was the first time in a very long while where Lennon felt appreciated in a way by people, because he was so kind of obsessed with what the newspapers were saying, news were saying about him. But regular folks, they loved John Lennon. What's the other one? Oh yeah, one of my favorites, Dua Lipa. And I'm listening to, when I'm writing, this playlist called Classically British. So it's like classical music, but all like English style. And when I was writing Paris scenes, I was listening to some like French classical. And it's interesting the differences between them. I feel very partial towards French culture, but this English one is really good. And I'm really enjoying reflecting on experiences in London. London is fun. I think London is a little bit more fun than Paris. The people are more fun. The people have a good spirit about them. Paris has it's like a different aesthetic, and the aesthetic creates a different vibe. I don't know if... it's a different vibe, that's for sure. London's really big too. Size-wise, things to do, different areas. So yeah. New Year's Eve. What kind of music are you listening to right now? Music is that connector. It's that expression of the soul and the vulnerability, the putting one's emotions out, and another then on the other end connecting with it. You know, they feel that same way. And so I've said before, you'll really get a snapshot of who someone is or the emotions they're experiencing at the time by asking them what music they listen to. It's really interesting. I used to go to shows in Chicago to different venues of artists that I don't even listen to or even know that well. And I like observing the demographics, the people, what they're wearing, what kind of things they're saying, what kind of like vibe it is. the Spotify Wrapped came out, so I've been revisiting some top songs of last year. Number one song, Houdini, Dua Lipa. Yeah, it's dripping in like French House, Wham. You'll get it with like your top songs. There's kind of like at the beginning of the year, you're still kind of listening to the songs you listened to at the end of the previous year. It's fun to go back. I think overall, Spotify's a pretty valuable company in terms of the product that they put out. So this next question, what's a company you appreciate? Oftentimes we're thinking or reflecting on the greed of companies, but what's a company that you appreciate for the product that they put out? Have you been able to do the things that you've wanted to do within your realistic timeframes? What I mean by this is something I've been finding with my own life is, I have just like all these lists, not lists, I wouldn't say lists, but these items of things I want to get done in the day. And oftentimes, like, I can't get to them just of sheer time. And then there's also a matter of energy in a way where I've found, I don't know if you experience this at all, but like there are moments throughout the day where I have my best energy, the most clarity, the most just like ready to go. And then other points of the day, like the energy just isn't the same, or the focus, the clarity. And so I'll always do the writing when it's that focus time. And something I've been thinking about lately is focus. In terms of ideal execution and result. I play fantasy football every year, and I'm always competitive. But what I've found is that if I'm in multiple leagues, only one team will be great. And the other one just is not. It won't be. And so this year, like last year, I've been in this league since 2017. People love hearing other people's stories about fantasy football. And so in this league, I've always been competitive. Made the playoffs every year. I've won it one year, and I was runner-up twice. Now, last year, we had a group together for work, and we did a league. And so my focus shifted to that one, and I lost in the championship with that one. And in the league I had always been in since 2017, I didn't even make the playoffs. And so this year, I'm only in one league, and that's the 2017 league. And I have a bye this week in the playoffs. I'm the 2 seed. And it's been making me think that my attention can only be, like you can only give your full attention to one thing. Or one person in a way. It's been really tough for people in the past. If they had multiple wives or husbands or whatever. You can only give your full attention to one. And I'm thinking about this concept, what I've been thinking about with this fantasy football and the results, and applying it to other aspects of life. Like, where am I identifying where I'm spreading my attention too thin, my focus too thin? And there are days where I'm working on multiple book projects right now. And there's been a couple of days I've noticed where I don't decide on which one to focus on. So there's almost like this paralysis of which one should I be thinking about right now? And then nothing really moves forward. Whereas when I identify which one, then magic happens, right? So I'm just thinking more about that. And so the question in regards to this is, where am I spreading my attention too thin? Two weeks ago, I think I had the highest single week score in 12-team league fantasy football history. I've shown the photo. I took a screenshot of it. 238.7 points in 1 week. Now, if you hit 200, that's spectacular. I'm in a PPR league. 150 will usually get you a win. I had 238. It was wild. And it was exciting. It was very, very exciting. But I was showing it around to different people, and they had never seen a score that high in a 12-team league. I posted it to Reddit. It didn't do anything. I reinstalled Reddit on my phone just to post it, and it just got 1 upvote. So I don't know. I feel like I'm not great about things in regards to the internet, of reaching people. I don't know. I reach you. You're here, and I appreciate you. I feel like oftentimes I try too hard to put files in all these places, and it's something I've taken a step back on and reflected on, is that I've had too much almost faith in the internet as far as content being seen it's probably the most profound thing that I've realized in the last 5 months or so, is that my perspective on what the internet is and where it's at is outdated. It's been outdated. So my thinking in regards to the internet has been fairly rosy and optimistic, but I realize that my perspective has been anchored in like the 2014 internet, where everything was a lot more organic. And it wasn't necessarily so tied into almost like pay for play, pay for views, and algorithms. You know, you can create something. There's an algorithm of what is successful, and you can create specifically for that algorithm. And that's something I've never done or had interest in. And stuff can take off. As far as it seems like the era of, I started this blog and then it grew, and I think those days are over in a way. The internet. What are your thoughts on the internet right now? Let's think a little bit more about that. This is the greatest issue of our time. I don't think it's being discussed enough. It's transformed every aspect of society, and I kind of lump the internet and digital technology together. How everything is now connected and the smartphones and stuff like that. I'm very optimistic overall, but I think that my perspective has been outdated. And when we discuss during these sessions of what's happening, right? Be clear and be aware so you can see what's happening. And I've been more observant of software. It seems like there's this war that's being fought through software. And what I mean by that is the internet seems so like convoluted now. There's so much. There's just like a sheer overwhelming amount of things. You know what I mean? So you really have to develop a philosophy of how you're going to use it in order to get positive value from it. If you just go on the internet, you're just going to be drowning in waves of information and everything calling for your attention. And so this war kind of thing is like everything is trying to get to you. So then you pay for this subscription to block that, right? But then this person or company is paying this software subscription to get through to you in this way. And then, if you want this, you're using this product, but if you want this little feature, it's going to cost you $5 more a month, or it goes from free to this. And it's this little itty bitty kind of software featuring where it's just like all these little things adding up. And that's really been impactful on me recently. I've been living a very, what I would consider more analog living than most people. And that's that I don't have Wi-Fi in the farmhouse where I live. And it's been great. It's been great. And then when I need to use the internet, it's very specific. Like for the novel, a lot of research, a lot of Wikipedia, a lot of Googling, but I can connect to my hotspot. So if I really need access to the internet, I can use hotspot, and it's not a big deal. Otherwise, I go to the office and use the Wi-Fi there to upload these big files, which, recording this video will be a bigger file, and then uploading it to YouTube. But that intentionality has been calming, I would say. I don't have any of the streaming services. To me, so let me ask you this question. How would a more analog or intentional use of the internet look like in your life? I'm not saying to do this or that or whatever. I'm just sharing my experience with it. Like before bed, I would oftentimes I'd be on my iPad, lying in bed. This is bad. Apparently screens are bad for you within an hour of sleep, but I find I can't read books at night before bed. Books stimulate me, or, I'm trying to learn from them, and reading them at night does the opposite effect. People read them at night to wind down. I don't get that way reading books, or certainly books that I choose to read. So I watch stuff, and oftentimes it'd be like YouTube. And I love YouTube. This is where the video's going. But at night, I'll oftentimes spend what feels like a half hour or 45 minutes just hopping around to different videos of what I think I like, or what I think I'd be interested in right now, or this specific moment. And it's the same thing with if I had Netflix or Amazon Prime, anything like that. It's like now I borrow DVDs from the library and play them in a DVD player, and I sit through and watch it. And I find joy in the kind of cinematography, the storytelling. There's a lot more substance, a lot more meat on the bone to chew on, rather than content. You know what I mean? So what's a more intentional use of the internet in our lives look like? Before this digital era, news was valuable. You had knowledge on the world, and you could make decisions based on that knowledge, right? I think the news is more of a detriment to an individual today. So it's important to curate what kind of news and your sources, and not just news, right? Shoved in your face. When I worked at a bar, I would have I'll read the morning brew, just business, economics, culture, a quick rundown. And that's kind of the framework. And then I hear things. So I get a better sense of what's happening in the world or in the community based on word of mouth and on the ground level, rather than being told this is what's happening, and what people care about. Discussions with everyday people, that's where you get a sense of what's actually going on. And so that was quite striking to me in regards to the U.S. election, presidential election, is that what people were actually talking about was not even coming close to being discussed in the election. And that's how technology has impacted everyone's lives. Whether you're in rural Kansas or Atlanta, you know? What's something we've learned recently? For me, oftentimes it's like hard to pinpoint something. The way I often learn is like these impressions. I saw this ad for a Bob Dylan movie, biopic that's coming out, and it made me think back to when I read his biography in 2022. When I read books, I can't regurgitate information to people directly or remember quotes or facts, details. I don't remember details. It's the same thing with movies, and that's why it's a big reason why I've shied away from movies. Other people, they can recite all these quotes and all these scenes and characters, and I just remember big things, like impressions, how I felt, and just like two or three things from the actual movie. And so this Bob Dylan book, so it's the same thing with books, right? Kind of these big puzzle pieces. And with Bob Dylan, of the things that stand out to me, I directly applied this one sentence where he knocked on the door. He moved to New York and he knocked on the door of his idol, Woody Guthrie. He found out where he lived and just knocked on the door. And he developed a friendship with him and a relationship with him. He basically had copied Woody Guthrie in his musical career until that point, because he loved him so much and he was inspired by him. And so he just knocked on his door, and and so I've applied that simple concept. We just discussed the internet, right? And trying to reach people and whatever. We now seem to prioritize so much the internet and less about individual people's and the precision in understanding how a person can be helpful rather than like a mass in a way. The other one was he just didn't care about living somewhere or like settling. He would sleep on people's floors in New York City around Greenwich Village. Like, it wasn't a big deal. And I think about that now. And it's like we try to create this comfortable life for ourselves. But if we don't have purpose, It's just flat. Whereas if you have purpose, you're perfectly happy with sleeping on the floor. You just don't care because you're motivated by something greater. And I think about that now, like the last 4 or 5 months, I've been sleeping on the floor every night in the farmhouse because I just don't care. And it's grounding, it's invigorating, it brings more gratitude. I think back to living homeless and just the satisfactory of having walls around you and a roof over your head. That was enough. That was enough. And, you know, when you have something greater that you're working on or aspiring for or that drives you, these, I don't want to say material things, but a lot of things just don't matter. But in our head, or, you know, say the internet or advertisements telling us that we need them, this is not true. Yeah, Bob Dylan, interesting guy. I've learned and applied from him. And that's how I kind of go about life, especially like reading biographies. I was writing a scene in so the scene it takes place in London in the National Gallery, and this character Raymond is with his fiancée Benea, and they're looking at the Virgin of the Rocks by Da Vinci. And so I just pulled a little something out of this biography, but I've applied. That's what life is. It's like learning and application, right? Ideas and execution. So what's something you're curious to learn more about? What are you curious about recently? And then how can you apply then what you learn in your own life? I suppose if you haven't learned about it yet, you don't know specifically. What we want to do is stage ourselves in situations and settings, be present, and then absorb what's happening. You know, like Da Vinci, we know him a lot for his paintings. Mona Lisa, the most famous painting in the world, arguably. I'm fascinated by a lot of other stuff outside of that. He was known, he would put on these pageants and these plays, these theatrical performances, and, you know, design stages. And I really pulled that from him about, you know, what's in a like shot, what's in like a stage, what is happening, the performance, the action, the clothing, everything is communicating something. And every place we are can be a stage. So it's interesting to think about how we can intentionally place ourselves somewhere. It could be a park bench. It could be a window at where you work. Like you're staging yourself and placing yourself in a situation. And this is the importance and what we aspire for and train ourselves to do through these guided reflections is being present, being centered so that we can be aware of what's happening. Very simple concept. Let's clear our mind so that what's around us can kind of fill in that vacuum and give us what we need. All right, last question. What are we energized for in the next week? What's something coming up that really electrifies you? You know, something that when you think about it, it gives you, it uplifts you a little bit. You're looking forward to it. Energy. My friends know that I don't use the word excited anymore. Maybe I used it once in this recording. I don't recall specifically. But I replaced the word excited with energized. And this is from, I picked up from Louis Hoffman. He's this French producer. One of my favorites that I'm listening to right now. And there's this music video where he's talking about, well, he's doing this kind of narration. And if someone says, hey, I'm giving you this car, it's across the street, you might be so excited that you run across the street, but you get hit by a car. Whereas when you're energized, you're more focused, and maybe you won't be careless and cross the street that way. So energized, to me, seems like a lot more like focused and channeled way of expressing excitement. I've been really good for the most part. I'm switching it up. Energized over excited. Feels more intentional, a lot more purposeful. So thank you for being here today. It's great that you're taking these steps and that you're interested in living a more intentional life, a life that is more in tuned and designed for the direction you want to be headed. You know, you find out what your purpose is and you're going towards it. Or by doing this stuff, you'll find a purpose within your own life. So thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Have a great week. Inspire the future.